A very good morning to everyone. Kindly cooperate with a few instructions for the smooth functioning of the program. Please note that during the course of this event, all the participants will be muted. During the interactive session, please type your questions in the common chat room. Please refrain from sending private messages to the guest. Let's begin with a silent prayer. Please maintain silence for a few moments. Thank you. The struggle you're in today is developing the strength you need tomorrow. Robert 2. A very good morning to one and all. I, Ajina Paul, and Gayatri M. take the privilege of comparing this event, English Amalgam 2021, at Dayapuram Arts and Science College for Women on the topic Book Editing and Careers in Publishing. Amalgam, launched in 2015, is an annual academic event organized by each department of Dayapuram College. Through Amalgam, departments attempt to bring in experts from the discipline to talk to the students on a chosen topic. We are honored to have Ms. Rashmi Menon, Managing Editor, Amaryllis, New Delhi, as our guest for the event.
Let me invite Ms. Sida Lakshmi, Head of Department of English, to welcome the gathering. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Gayatri. Eminent guest of the day, Ms. Rashmi Menon, Dr. N.P. Ashley, participants from various institutions, teachers, and students, warm good morning to one and all. I'm extremely happy to get this opportunity to address you on the 7th edition of Amalgam. Amalgam is one of the signature events of Dayapuram, which was launched in 2015. It's an annual intercollegiate lecture series parallelly organized by various departments of Dayapuram. As far as Department of English is concerned, Amalgam 2021 is very special because for the last few years, we had been organizing one Amalgam annually as we had only one UG program here, BA Functional English. In 2020, we have launched English Literature program also. So from this year onwards, we'll be organizing two Amalgam lecture series annually, one for BA Functional English and the other for Literature. We are on this platform today for the official inauguration of Functional English Amalgam. To officially inaugurate the same, we have an expert professional from the media industry, Ms. Rashmi Menon. She is currently Managing Editor, Amaryllis Publications, New Delhi. On behalf of the Department of English, I extend my hearty welcome to Ms. Rashmi Menon. Welcome, ma'am. Next, I would like to invite and welcome Dr. N.P. Ashley, Volunteer in Charge, Dayapuram, also Assistant Professor at St. Stephen's College, Delhi. He's the one who always inspires us to work and think differently. Thank you, Ashley, sir, and welcome to the session. Next, I welcome participants from various institutions who are on this platform today to encourage us. Welcome, everyone. Next, I welcome all the faculty members of Department of English whose relentless effort and teamwork made this event a reality. Welcome, everyone. Next, I welcome all the students of Department of English for whom and by whom this event is organized. Once again, I welcome each and every one of you to Functional English Amalgam 2021. Thank you.
Now, let me invite Dr. N.P. Ashley, Assistant Professor, St. Stephen College, New Delhi, and Volunteer in Charge, Dayapuram, for the presidential address. Welcome, sir.
Thanks, Ajina and Gayatri. Good morning, everyone. It's an amazing day for me personally, and I think it's an interesting, like Sita said, it has a welcome speech. This is the first of, it's a launch event for the Functional English course in the Amalgam series. So that's another interesting sort of a time for us. So I'm here in the capacity of the volunteer in charge, I welcome my dear friend and editor, managing editor of Amaryllis, Reshmi Menon, to this gathering to launch this functional English amalgam talk series, and we hope to continue this the years to come. For us, academic volunteers have chosen the Abrium as a space of our social work. It's always quite heartening, quite wonderful to have newer people joining this link, this network, this treasure trove, so to speak, of resources, of energies, of enthusiasm, and so on and so forth. English studies in recent years, in last 2-3 decades, have been actually going through a particular kind of bifurcation. One is based on functional nature of the language, because English English works also because it's the global language. It is the language in which a lot of technology works, and for all of technology works, all of commerce works, and international relations work. So English has this aspect of being a functional language, a linked language, a world language, and that's one of the reasons why English gets primacy over other languages and other disciplines in a certain. On the other hand, there is also a very strong streak of studying literature, which is now gone into cultural studies, criticism, social criticism, cultural criticism, technological criticism, all kinds of things. So when the Abrium College decided to become a major center of English studies, which with English as one of its core areas, it is important to have functional English and English literature courses both, right? So here, that bifurcation could be self-conscious, could be worked out, because we now we have two courses. So in that, one is functional English would deal with what kind of language jobs you could do vis-a-vis the market, the industry, the media, various other areas. And language and literature is more about, and culture studies is more about teaching at the UG level, at the PG level, continuing with your research, doing other critical areas, engaging in other critical areas of cultural theory, social theory, film theory, performance theory, and so on and so forth. So there are these two areas, both of which I think colleagues at the Abrium are quite invested in, and as they are pushing this agenda of making both available to our students here in this area. So that's one thing. The second aspect I want to quickly touch upon is that today we have Reshmi Menon as our guest, our keynote, our resource person for this morning, and she's talking about editing and book publishing as an industry. She's a very eminent editor. She has worked with Rupa. She has worked. She did have both her degree and PG from Delhi University, and in English. Went on to work with publishing industries, and then moved on to now managing editor, which means there are two sides to her work. One is the work of editing a book, and the other is managing. How does this publication, how the whole industry work? How does the whole firm work? So it's a very interesting sort of portfolio that we have, and having worked with her on one of the translation projects when she was editing a book on 1984 Sikh riots, I've had the absolute privilege of working with her on N.S. Madhavan's famous short story, One Marangam report, which I had to translate into English. And that is when I understood how an editor can not just bring out the impact, the emotional impact, and it's in various nuances, but even point out certain aspects that in the original that I was missing as a writer. Kerala is a place where we have a lot of writers, and I do know that there are students from Madras and elsewhere also here. But because it being largely a Malayali audience, I think it might be good to say that Kerala is a place where a lot of books get published. But the problem is, and everyone nowadays, like every other person has a book. So, but one person who is missing in Kerala publications is the editor, right? And as students of literature, as students of culture, of how these books and reading came about, we do know that the role of the editor was very, very important in the making of many a masterpiece, right? Or what is considered to be a masterpiece. There are lots of studies about how editing in the 18th century transformed Shakespeare, how editing of the works such as T.S. Eliot's became complete, a complete mediating force, which actually fine-tuned the work and gave us what it is. And there's a whole school of criticism called textual criticism, which deals with different versions of the same poem or novel, whatever. And that actually is a place where the author becomes a collaborator in the work of the editor, becomes a collaborator with the author, and the editor is not a person who you one sees, but editor has a lot of responsibility, a lot of say, a lot of importance in the making of the final product that you get to see in the form of the book. And in Kerala, it's not such a DC books or Matbhumi or current books. I don't know. I mean, the editing process isn't. They might commission some works and they might actually finish, and publish it. The books come out. But in the English publishing industry, editor is a very important figure who actually works with the author in all these important publishing spaces. So it's an important aspect that Kerala needs to look at, I personally think. And it's an important arena of jobs. Those who are interested in reading, in books in general, life in general. It's an excellent career as well. It's a creative career. It's a career that can think about how what would be the final form a book needs to have when it goes out to the reader and when it reaches the hands of the reader. So it's a very important kind of a professional choice. It's a very interesting kind of an activity, a creative cultural activity, a political activity, because a lot of books, they say we have to publish this now because this is the political moment, right? So there are all those kinds of things. And for functional English, when we think about functional English as things that you can do in the job market with English, editing is just like journalism, is just like writing for the media, is just like script writing. Editing is a very important area. And we have somebody who has had that kind of journey, who can tell us what this whole thing is about and what we need to do to get it. So I'm very glad to be able to be participating in this. With that, I end my words. I wish this event all success. Also, the more and more such events which will orient us into these two possibilities of English studies. One is functional English and the other is critical or literary and cultural areas. So I hope and pray that we will be, the collective at Dayapuram and elsewhere, will be able to push both of these with the same rigor, with the same understanding, so that people have more choices, people have better choices, more efficient, more befitting worlds to work in and live in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Let me welcome Abarna Rajesh of second year BA Functional English to introduce the guest speaker of the day, Ms. Rashmi Menon.
It is my privilege to introduce the guest speaker of the day, Ms. Rashmi Menon. Rashmi Menon has been a part of the Indian publishing industry for more than a decade. She is currently the managing editor at Amaryllis, an imprint of Manjul Publishing House. She has worked with several best-selling writers and has edited a variety of books over the years, from commercial and literary fiction to a variety of non-fiction, such as foreign affairs, memoir, and self-help. In 2018, she was chosen by the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany to represent India on their Visitors Program, which focuses information exchange and the creation of networks between international publishers. She enjoys helping new authors develop a book idea to make it their own and gets a kick from seeing her projects released in print. We are moving on to the much awaited part of the event today. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ajina, Gayatri, Sita Lakshmi ma'am, Ashley, and all the other students here. It's an absolute honor to be here. And I would like to express my appreciation to everyone at Dayapuram for arranging such an opportunity for me as well as the students. I wish when I was at this stage in my life, I wish I had someone who could, tell me about the opportunities available. And I want to introduce myself by telling you my story. So after I finished my MA in English literature, I was absolutely clueless as to what I must do. All I knew was that, I want to do something in the field of English. That's all I knew, nothing else. Fortunately or unfortunately, I immediately got a job in a fashion and luxury magazine as a journalist and editor, but I couldn't survive for more than 3 months because of the cutthroat competition and the atmosphere there. So within 3 months, I was jobless. I was fighting with my parents. My parents were very angry with me that I had left a job which I had got so easily. And for the next 4 months, I was jobless. I was struggling. My parents wanted to push me into career paths that were really not to my liking. I knew that, I would be a zero at that, but it was a very difficult, troublesome phase in my life. So after many failed interviews, a very close friend of mine introduced me to the world of publishing. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. Anyway, it is something related to English. Maybe I could be good at it. So I applied to a small publishing house, went for an interview there. They gave me a small document and told me to correct it, which I did to the best of my capabilities. They said, okay, you've passed the test, but you don't know how to mark proofreading symbols. So we will give you this paltry amount of money as salary and you can start working. So though I was happy that I cleared the test, I was really not happy on getting such a small sum. Again, fortunately, I was slated to be interviewed at a much bigger publishing house a few days later. So this interview helped me know what they are looking out for. So I went home, I researched on all proofreading symbols and then went to give the interview in the other publishing house. They were impressed that, oh, this is a fresher and she knows proofreading symbols, and I got the job, and that too at double the salary. Now, throughout this process, as I told you, I was fighting with my parents, and finally I was like, okay, I've got a job and I should immediately call up my parents and tell them. So the job I got was at one of India's oldest, very famous independent publishing house called Rupa. And like many of you might know, Rupa is also the name of an underwear and vest company. So when I called up my father and informed him that, Dad, I got a job, he's like, in Rupa? So basically nobody knew about publishing because they were thinking Rupa is that, hosiery and undergarments thing. So then I had to explain things to him. And today, after more than 12 years in this industry, my parents are very proud of me. It's a very creatively satisfying profession. And I'm very happy to share my experience and tell you all about editing and all the careers, the many, many careers that are available in this industry, in the publishing industry. And we're going to keep it very informal here. I'm just another one of you, okay? So when it comes to editing, so most of you would be on social media platforms, right? Either Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. So when you post something, right after you post it, you think, oh, this is not good, or I just want to change this. Oh, there's a typo here. Oh, this might sound better, right? So you go and edit it, right? So that is what editing means. That's the basic meaning of editing. But when it comes to a book, when it comes to editing a book, it's a completely different ball game altogether. Number one, it involves editing a minimum of say 200 pages, and each page is about 250 words. So what is editing? Editing is basically making changes and suggestions to improve the writing and story quality, to make a story the best, absolute best version of itself. That is what editing is. Okay. As an editor, your aim is to make the work interesting, read well, and be error-free. Now, the editing process can be divided into 3 parts, okay? One is developmental or structural editing. The second is copy editing. And the third is proofreading, okay? So when an author writes a manuscript, after that, once he or she is sure that, okay, this is good enough for publishing, they send it out to a publishing house, okay? Suppose the publishing house accepts it. They think that, okay, this might work in this market, let's take it on. Then it goes to the editor. Now, the editor has to look at the book as a whole, okay? Not just the language, but as a whole, the story, the language, any errors, etc. So first we'll begin with structural editing. Now, for example, if you look at a building, if the structure is not good enough, okay, it's not strong enough, no matter what sort of expensive paint you use, no matter how beautiful the interiors are, it is going to collapse after a point of time. Similar is the case with a book. The first thing you look at is the structure, in which you ensure that everything in the story is in place. Okay, so for example, let's take the example of a murder mystery. Okay, we're taking fiction as an example because there are many genres in books. Okay, there's fiction, there's non-fiction, and within fiction there are so many categories, like there's romance, there's murder mystery, there's a thriller, there's historical fiction. But just for ease of explanation, the genre I'm going to take is a murder mystery. So what do we look for in a murder mystery? It has to be fast paced. You want to turn the page to know what is going to happen next. At the end of a chapter, there should be a cliffhanger so that the reader keeps wondering, oh, what's going to happen next? Is it him who murdered this person, or is it that woman there? So it should be fast paced. There shouldn't be a lot of time spent in describing the weather, how beautiful the flowers are, that auntie in the neighborhood looked like this. No. So that is where the structural editor comes into the picture. So if suppose the author is in the middle of slowly revealing who the murderer is, dropping hints here and there, and suddenly goes into describing the weather or the look of the room, etc., that's where the editor comes and says, hey, stop, you are sort of murdering the story. The pace is becoming slow and the reader might lose interest. So there the editor says that, okay, this is my suggestion, please remove this, okay? And another thing that the structural editor does is looking out for things that can make the story even more interesting, okay? So the basic job of an editor is to make that story, that book, the best version of itself. So in case, again, I'm taking the example of a murder mystery. It's fine, it's going okay, but then the editor thinks, what if we add a love story to this? So you add a love story to add a little bit of masala to the entire thing. Or suppose if it is a love story, then you say, let's make it into a love triangle. So here we are making changes at the very structure of the story, and therefore these are called structural edits. And the editor who does this is called the structural editor or developmental editor, because in essence you are trying to develop the story into something that is a much better version of itself. Okay, then the next stage is copy editing, where you start focusing on the language and how to make it better. So here your job is to get rid of redundancies, that is repetitions. For example, if I say, I woke up at 4 a.m. in the morning. Now here, can you think of what is the redundancy here? So when I'm saying 4 a.m., a.m. already means it's the morning, right? So you don't have to add in the morning after that. Here's where the copy editor comes in. The copy editor will say, okay, if either you write, I woke up at 4 a.m. or you write, I woke up at 4 in the morning. I'm just giving you simple examples. Of course, it gets much more complicated than this, but just to explain what a copy editor does, I'm giving you a few examples, and I'm sure that these examples can help you in your functional English too. So another very common mistake that people make, okay? He's nodding his head. Now, when you nod, you can nod only your head and not your hands or your feet or your legs. You can only nod your head. So you say he nodded, she nodded, but never he nodded his head. Okay, then there is the book evolved over a period of time. Evolving is over a period of time, so you don't need to add a period of time. Okay, then you have to ensure that the dialogues are crisp, and it shouldn't be a show and tell sort of a thing. So when it comes to say dialogues, the dialogues have to flow smoothly. It shouldn't be like he said, she said, we said. You can replace the word said with, say, exclaimed or guffawed or beamed or smiled. Okay, so you try to replace the word said with better words. Now, said is just an example, but when you go through a manuscript, you will see many other words that you think can be improved. That, a sentence can sound much better if I write it in this particular manner. So that is what a copy editor does. This is part of copy editing, where you improve the language, okay? And you make it crisper. You also do a fact check, okay? For example, again, we go back to the murder mystery. So, for example, if the body of the murder has happened and the body is discovered in an ice cream freezer, okay? This is part of the plot. So then there is a detective. The detective or the policeman will try to question a number of people to find out who the murderer is. They have to lead to the suspect. So he's questioning a lot of people, and then there is this one suspect. He thinks that, okay, he might be the murderer. So another person who has seen him says, yes, sir, I saw him. He was going upstairs and he was carrying packets of chocolate ice cream. Okay, it's chocolate ice cream. But then when the body is discovered, it smells of vanilla ice cream. Okay, so this is something the author has done. In one place he says chocolate ice cream, and in the other place he says vanilla ice cream. Now this is an inconsistency. We might just miss it because we are just thinking ice cream. But as an editor, you must have an eye for detail. You must be able to pick out this inconsistency and say, hey, author, here there's an inconsistency here. We must make it the same flavor. Especially in a murder mystery, you must look out for things that are not adding up. There are plots, subplots, and plots within the subplots. So the editor has to make sure that all the plots tie up in the end, so that the entire story comes together, and by the end of the book the reader feels satisfied. Yes, everything has sort of tied up in the end. There were so many question marks, and there were so many instances where you just couldn't figure out what is happening. But in the end, the author has to make sure that everything has a logical progression and end to it, and the editor must ensure that this logical end happens. Okay, this is just in the case of a murder mystery, but in other genres too, you must ensure that the characters sound and look the same. It shouldn't be like the character had, a lot of hair, and then in the next part is like the character is bald. You have to look out for these little details. So that is basically copy editing. And then we come to proofreading. So proofreading is where you take care of spelling, grammar, punctuation marks, and formatting errors. So by formatting errors, I mean sometimes a certain part of the sentence might be in bold and the other part might be in normal font. So this is an error. You have to ensure that everything is in normal font or everything is in bold font. You ensure consistency. Okay, so, and it might seem very simple, but a comma, a full stop, a semicolon, all of them are very, very important. Now, I'm going to write 2 sentences, okay, so that you know how important a comma is. And I want you to tell me what is wrong with this, what is wrong with the sentence, okay? Here goes the first sentence. This is the first sentence. This is the second sentence. Can you see the difference? Yeah. So if we say, let's eat children, you actually mean you're going to eat children. But when you put that comma, you say, let's eat, and you're saying that to your children. Let's eat children. So that is the importance of a comma. You miss a comma, the entire meaning of the sentence changes. Okay. Now I have a task for all of you. I'm going to write a sentence. I'm going to type a sentence here. Whoever is able to point out whatever is wrong with this sentence is free to intern with us as soon as, and if they want to, as soon as they finish their graduation. Okay. So I'm going to type out this sentence.
Just a second.
Yeah.
The messages you are typing has to come in the common chat room. I think it is coming to me.
Okay.
We were chatting earlier.
I'm so sorry. So
yeah.
how do we do that?
You have changed the option in from Twinkle to, you have to make it to everyone in meeting. Just click on that 2 thing.
Okay.
Now if you type, it has to come to everyone.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to type out the sentence. Okay. There it is. The Spanish influenza pandemic of 1918 was responsible for the deaths of more British people than the Second World War preceding it. Whoever knows what is wrong with the sentence, please feel free to type it in the chat box so that I know. Okay, so I'll give you a hint. It's not a spelling error. It's something else. No, not pandemic. It's a factual error. Yes, Bulbul, you're close. Correct. Bulbul, you're absolutely right. So if you see, the influenza, Spanish influenza happened in 1918. And then we're talking about the Second World War and saying preceding it. But when did the Second World War happen? 1945, right? So this is a factual error. Bulbul, and yes, Fasna, please feel free to approach me for an internship with Amaryllis. Okay, so this is of course editing and proofreading, but even in your own work, whenever you submit something, whenever you are asked to revise something, do keep a lookout for such errors. We can easily miss them, but just if you pay a little more attention, you'll be able to catch them. Okay. Okay, so these are the basics of, yeah, Bulbul, I'll let you know later how to approach, okay? So these are the basics of editing a manuscript. And actually, there's a lot more that I would love to tell you about. And I can write a book on editing, but because of the paucity of time and because I want to tell you about all the careers available in publishing, let's move on to that. So the best part of publishing is that it offers a lot of opportunities to freelance, to work from the comfort of your home. Okay. And I think there's a job for every personality type. So if you're like the quiet introvert person who loves to read and, keep to herself or himself, then there's of course editing. And if you're like, you like to get out, you love to network, you love to talk, then there is marketing. And if you are good at art and design, then there is so much to, you can go into illustrations, you can go to book cover designing, you can go into book designing. And then if you have the gift of the gab, then you can get into sales. And there is a lot of opportunities. And the best part is that publishing companies all over the world employ a lot of freelancers. So you don't have to stick to just one publisher. You can work with multiple publishers. Okay. So then now I've already told you about editing. So we require a lot of editors. We require structural editors, developmental editors, copy editors, and proofreaders. Those are the career options that I've already spoken to you about. Now, they pay well once you become get a more senior position, but at the beginning it's sort of low. But if you go into platforms like Upwork, I think, yeah, Upwork, there are a lot of good opportunities. They pay well, they pay by the hour, like $10 per hour for editing. Now, if we go on to say, now, if you're good at art, if you're good at drawing, if you're good at illustrating, the very important part of a book is its cover, right? People say that you shouldn't judge a book by the cover, but I'm sorry, I completely disagree. A book cover goes a long way in, you're deciding to buy the book. So then you can become a book cover designer. It pays anything between 7,500 per cover, 7,500 to about 20,000 rupees per cover. So if you can learn the software and just advertise yourself, just approach publishing houses, you can get into a book cover designing. And it's a very, very interesting career choice, because you get to read a lot of books. You have to ideate with the author and editor to come up with a design that speaks to an audience, that speaks to a potential reader. Oh, look, this cover looks so interesting. I'm sure the book should be great too. The cover design is supposed to attract. That's the first point of attraction between a potential buyer and the book. Okay, so that is a career option. And another thing is designing the book, the complete book, where you can be responsible for designing illustrations or designing the book as a whole, where you choose beautiful fonts for the title, the subtitle, then you make little boxes for the pull-out quotes. All these are small elements that are very important in the entire book designing process. Now, there are two types of designing for the book. One is a general one for a black and white book, and it is done by a typesetter. Now, what does the typesetter do? So once the book is edited, the editor sends the Word document to the typesetter and gives him or her the details, like the book size. Suppose there are different sizes. So this book is called the royal size, which is 9 inches by 6 inches. Then there is demi, which is 8.5 by 5.5 inches. And then there's the B format, which is a smaller size. So you tell the typesetter the size of the book, the typesetter will format it. They'll use good fonts, title, different font options for the title, different font options for the text. Then we'll have a running head. I don't know if you know, but running head is this at the top of the book, top of the page, where the title as well as the name of the author is mentioned, and all this is done by the typesetter. They arrange it into, they make a contents page, they insert the photo pages. All this is done by a typesetter. And if you learn how to use this software called InDesign, you can get into typesetting. That is one option. Then there is, as I told you, book cover designing. Then there is designing the book in its entirety. And there's a lot of scope and potential for illustrators of children's books. Huge amount of money there. So if you are really good at art and design, do try that out. Then if you love networking, and if you are very fond of being active on social media, then there is a lot of demand for marketing and promotion. Now, if a book it's written well, it's been edited well, it's been formatted well, but if nobody knows about its existence or availability, then there's no point, right? That is where marketing and promotions come in. And there's a huge demand for people who can, be very active on social media, talk about the book, present it in a very nice way, come up with witty one-liners, come up with lines, quotes from the book that speak to the audience, that make them think, oh, wow, that's an interesting line. I think I would like to read that book. You guys would know much more about social media marketing than me. I am a dinosaur in that respect, but I am guessing that most of you would be absolutely wonderful at that. And I'd like to inform you that a lot of publishing houses are always looking out for interns, especially in the social media, digital marketing departments. So if you guys are good at it, do approach publishing houses for that. Okay, so then in that department, you'll have to promote the book. That is where promote the book on social media pages. Then there is Amazon marketing. That is a completely different game altogether, where, as you all know, most of us end up buying books on Amazon or Flipkart or most online portals. And 90% of the buyers are on Amazon. Bookstore buying has reduced a lot. So publishers invest quite a significant amount in Amazon marketing, where we use keyword optimization to ensure that, say, for example, if a reader is searching for a book on aviation, so when they type out aviation on the Amazon search bar, we want our book to appear first, right? So that is where Amazon marketing comes in. You'll have to do a lot of permutation combinations to ensure that your book appears on the first page. Then there are Amazon banners, where you make creatives or banners that talk about your book, that show your book in a very nice, way, very classy way, so that viewers are attracted towards it. Everything is now visual. People look at something, they feel attracted, they buy it, right? So you have to play on that. That is where marketing and promotions come in. Then there is, of course, another branch of marketing which deals with the media. So if you have the gift of the gab, you like talking to people, you know how to convince people, then this is for you. You have to call up people in the media, convince them that this book is worth reviewing, or these authors are worth interviewing, and make them do that. You send them the books and say, oh, this is the next bestseller, oh, this is going to win an award, and sort of convince them to talk about the book. So when the media features the book in their magazines and newspapers, the book gets coverage, and therefore it gets visibility. And that's when people start knowing that, oh, this book exists. Oh, so India Today is talking about this book, so it must be a fabulous book. That's how the human mind works. So we have to tap into that. That is where marketing and promotions play a huge role. Then now, as you might all know, there are a lot of literature festivals in India. So the marketing and promotion people try to market the authors into these literary festivals and say, hey, literary fest, our author speaks extremely well. She's well read. She's going to add value to your panel discussion. Please invite her. So they invite her. That's another place where sales happen. So, and then there are book launches. So if you're good at organizing events and, networking between people, this is where you should be. It's a lot of fun. It's very interesting. You get to meet a lot of people. Every book is different. Every author is different. Every day in publishing is going to be different for you. It's never going to be boring. It's always going to be challenging and interesting. So that is basically marketing and promotions. And then comes sales. So that's the last part, last part of the journey. So, but unfortunately in India, sales is governed mostly by men. I have hardly seen any women in the sales department, but hopefully with so many young women here, maybe we'll see a change in the near future. So sales is where the book is in your hand, the product is in your hand. You have to ensure that these books reach bookshops. Bookshops and airport bookshops, they have very small space. They don't have a lot of space to stock everything. So you are the one who has to convince that bookseller and say, look, this book is going to be very important. This is what people want. Please stack it here or display it on your bookshelf and all that. So that is where the sales comes in. Sales department comes in. They have to ensure that the books reach not only the bookshops in cities, but also in B level and C tier cities. So that is sales. And then there is, of course, production, where you have to interact with the printing press, ensure paper quality, get a good quote, ensure that the production cost is minimum but the quality is high. So if you're good at understanding paper quality and how to make a book look good when you feel it, how to make it look good, then probably production is something that you can try. Then also there's this one last thing I want to talk to you about, the literary agent. Now, the literary agent is somebody who's like the middleman between the publisher and the author. So the literary agent will approach the publisher and say, hey, I have this author who has written on, say, something like self-help, okay, saying that like maybe you must have read the book The Secret, something like that. Okay, nowadays self-help and personality development, motivation, all that is really in vogue. So they come and tell us that this is a book we have, would you like to buy it? So we publishers, we buy it from them for a certain amount. Okay, we give them an advance and then we give them royalty. So the literary agent is the middleman between the author and the publisher. You can also become a literary agent where you scout for authors and books you think can do well in the current scenario and pitch it to publishers according to the kind of books they are looking for. So that's a lot of information for the day. I think I've told you all the possible career opportunities in publishing. And now please feel free to ask me any questions. In case you have any questions, that is.
We are moving on to the interactive session. Kindly type your questions in the chat box. The session will be moderated by Ms. Twinkle Janardhan, Faculty of English Department, Dayabram.
Thank you, Gayatri. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, ma'am, for this comprehensive talk on editing and careers in publishing industry. Now, I request all our participants to type your questions in the chat box. I'll read your questions. Okay, we have the first question from Ms. Paumin. Have you ever received negative feedback on a piece of writing that you have signed off? What was your response? Ma'am, this is the first question. Okay, so it's very subjective. Negative and positive feedback both happen, but you just have to take it with a pinch of salt. Now, once you've taken on a book, then it is your baby. There is no way you're looking back. You just have to publish it. So some books, like, there's so many books, like just for example, right now I'd said The Secret. Now, The Secret has been loved by millions of people, but there are so many people who say, what nonsense is this? So that is just part of the entire process. Yeah, sometimes if a book has, say, typos, mistakes, so that hits directly to you and it does feel bad, but it's always a learning experience. And then you just ensure you work doubly hard to make sure that such a mistake doesn't happen. So that has happened a multiple number of times. People will, on the one hand, people say, oh, fantastic book, I love the story, it's fabulous. Then there will be those two people who say, oh, what a pathetic story that was, how could you even publish it? That's like a very normal thing to happen. Okay, we have another question. Could you please elaborate about this literary agent? I think the person wants to know about the income possibilities, the mode of income, etc.
Okay. So the literary agent earns as soon as the deal is struck. So if say the literary agent brings a book to me and I'm the publisher and I like it and I offer say 1 lakh rupees as advance to the author. So the literary agent has a little deal with the author saying that she or he will get either 15 or 10% of the advance royalty. Now the royalty, this is just an advance amount. The royalty is like, suppose nowadays the rate is 8% for a paperback edition. So at the end of the year in March, we calculate royalties according to the number of sales. So say if a book has sold 5,000 copies, 8% of the net receipts go to the author. Okay. And of that 8%, the author will be giving a certain cut to the literary agent. So that's how they earn. They also have their own editorial services. So they say that, okay, author, you have written a good manuscript and I think there is potential, but I think we should edit it. We should make it even better before we present it to the publisher. For that, I will charge you, say, 60,000 rupees. So that is also another source of income for them.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm moving on to the next question. How do self-publishers compete on the same level of traditional publishing? This is a question from Ms. Krishna Priya.
Well, they are competing. They are becoming, the competition is higher because traditional publishers cannot take on everything. Okay, sometimes we feel that, okay, this book just won't work for us, so we will reject it. But at the same time, there will be that self-publisher who says, hey, I'll publish your book, just give me money, I'll publish your book. So that author is able to publish that book through that self-publishing platform, and also maybe perhaps put in a lot of marketing effort, and therefore the book starts doing really well. Also, the book might be really good, mistakes happen. Traditional publishers might have taken a wrong choice and they started, so then that starts working well, but still self-publishing platforms have a long way to go because that brand value is still not attached to it. But yes, they are making a mark in the publishing scene now.
Thank you, ma'am. I think we have a lot of questions. I'm going on to the next one. I hope it is okay with you.
Absolutely fine.
So how do one get into a publishing house and what do they look for? Like probably as a fresher, I think, because the next question is also related to it.
Okay.
Is work experience a prerequisite for entry into book publishing? So I think you could give an answer for both these questions.
See, it depends on the job, on the designation. So if you're looking for freshers, then work experience is not required. For example, as I mentioned a little earlier, a lot of publishers are looking for interns where we will train you. We will teach you what is to be done. And then you can either choose to stick on with us or go and, approach other publishers. So say for things like designing a cover, you do need to learn the software, you need some experience there. But for say editing, you have to have an eye for detail. You need to love reading. Okay, without that love, there's no point getting into this industry. You will get bored in no time. And that is something we look out for. And yes, a sharp eye for detail, because you can't miss the details. The devil lies in the details, as they say. You can't miss out on that. But if you have these prerequisites, that is, good command over English and a sharp eye for detail, that's all you need to get into publishing.
Thank you, ma'am. Another question. What is the current market rate of copy editing a single page? Could you give a range of income?
Yeah, that depends on how much experience you have. So if you're a senior editor, copy editing could, the rate per page for copy editing could vary between 60 to 200 rupees per page. Depends on your seniority, depends on your experience. The publishing house will also take a test to ensure that you are what they want. So, but if you're a fresher, editing would be somewhere around close to 40 to 50 rupees per page. Proofreading, anything between 20 to 30 rupees per page.
Thank you, ma'am. Another question. I think the the question is, would there be any degree which is mandatory to work in publishing industry? Like, is there any degree that you be from language industry? I mean, language
It is
course.
preferred. If you have a degree in English, it is preferred, but that is not necessary. If you don't have to be an English literature graduate to be great at English, you can be an engineering student or a student of history, pol science or maths and still have fabulous English and love reading and have an eye for detail. That's all that's required. And you need a lot of patience. That is one important thing I forgot to mention, because here you're dealing with 200 to maybe 500 pages, and you're going to go through these five, and I'm just talking about editing, you're going to go through these 500 pages about 3 times, so to ensure that it is error free. So you need to have that sort of patience.
Okay, another question. Some editors are a bit reserved in their changes. Some like to slash and burn entire chapters down. Some editors will be kind and guide us gently, and others won't hesitate to hurt our feelings if it is what we need to take the book to the next level. Could you please share with us your editorial style?
So I am very diplomatic in my approach. I like to sugarcoat things because I know that authors are very sensitive people. It's a very vulnerable situation for them. They're placing what they've written from their heart and soul in front of you to criticize. So that's something that must be appreciated. As an editor, we have the power to criticize them, to make things better, make the writing better, but that doesn't mean that we have the right to hurt them. So I feel this is a personal opinion. Like I know many editors who wouldn't think like that. Tough love approach is what they believe in, but I think everything can be sorted out in a nice, amiable fashion. So if I see something really wrong, instead of saying that what nonsense is this, which is the first thought that comes to my head, to tell you the truth, I'll say, perhaps it would be better if we write this in this fashion. It would sound much better than what it already is. So that is my usual approach, and it has worked fabulously for me. I think one of the things that I really am proud of is the kind of relationships I have with my authors. A lot of authors have written stuff that I have sort of chopped, like in big chunks, because it is the need of the hour. I mean, you have to chop off certain parts of the manuscript to make it read better, to make the script tighter, to make the pace faster. But yes, it is important to convey that in a nice way, as it is in all situations in life. You can always convey things in a nice way to avoid confrontation.
Thank you, ma'am. I would just like to read one more question and we can sort of wind up. This is a question from Mr. Arun Abraham. The question is there a particular style sheet or manual that one should be familiar with if they have aspirations for a career in editing?
Yes, so there's this thick book called the Chicago Manual of Style, which we editors refer to. It is called the Bible. I mean, it's like the Bible for editing, but that will get a little complicated for a fresher. What I can do is send you our in-house style sheet so that you have a basic reference point as to what editors, what publishing houses look out for. Every publishing house has a different style sheet. So for example, my publishing house uses British orthography, that is British spellings. So realize will be spelled with an S and not a Z. Some publishing houses will have American orthography, so they will use Z instead of S, and very little things. I can share that style sheet with you and you will understand them. Every publisher has its own style sheet.
Ma'am, would you have time for 1 or 2 questions which have
Please ask away, no problem at all.
Okay, thank you. There is this question from Ms. Shafla. The question is, there's one question from Ms. Shafla. Ma'am, in 2018, you were chosen by the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany to represent India on their visitors program. How was that experience with authors from across the world?
Oh, that was a wonderful experience for me. I came back with 19 friends from 19 different countries. They were not just authors, but journalists and editors. It was a networking program of sorts where, we met publishers from the German publishing industry, understood what they are looking out for, understood their ways of marketing and promotion, discussed the problems, issues, and challenges that the publishing industry is facing, and interacted with journalists and editors from different publishing houses from different countries and from different genres of books. So there were editors who focus on children's books, there were illustrators, there were journalists who focus on a particular kind of topic, and then there were editors like me who focus on trade publishing. So yeah, it was a once in a lifetime, absolutely fabulous experience for me. And also I was able to, so there's one thing that I was able to achieve through that is bring German literature to India. So we bought the rights to a German book, which will be published in English as well as Marathi, Malayalam, and Tamil very soon. So it also helped, bring about that sort of networking between Indian and German publishing house.
Thank you, ma'am. This is the last question. This was sent by Ms. Sutirtha. What is the most important consideration in selecting a book editor?
Number one is a command over the English language. Now, the editor can be for any other language book. I'm just talking about English. Number one is a command over English. Number two is the attention for detail. They should be able to catch those little issues, whether it's a comma or a semicolon, I don't care, but they should be able to catch that. 2 and 3, patience, for a love for reading. 5, knowing what is working and what is not working in the current publishing scenario. Like, for example, right now, fiction is not selling too well. It's non-fiction, it's personality development, it's self-help. People are so stressed out. And in India, we don't go to psychologists, right? We try to talk to our relatives and friends, and then we resort to books. So right now, especially after the pandemic, self-help and personality development has made a huge they're doing extremely well. So if an editor comes in and says, hey, I want to publish literary fiction and I think we should publish 5,000 copies, that won't work for us, because at the end of the day we have to think commercially. We have to ensure that the book sells, otherwise there's no point. So somebody who knows the trends in publishing would be preferable.
Okay, ma'am. I think there is one question from Mr. Bulbul Gupta. He's asking how could he contact you or approach you?
Yeah,
if
sure. I will share my email ID with Ashley or Sita Lakshmi ma'am, and they can share it with you, and then you can approach me. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
And anybody who wants to know more about proofreading or resources, or how to improve their proofing or proofreading skills or editing skills, please share my email ID with them. I'd be, yes, Ashley. Please unmute Ashley, sir.
Yes. Rashmi, this has been going great. I mean, and there's been so many questions and all of that. So it's great that you offered this internship. That's amazing. And also, this offer of how to improve. Could we do a workshop, at some point, on some of these things? That might be very for the interested ones.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to.
It'd be an excellent idea, because I didn't know there's so many interested people, and there's been excellent questions coming up. So it'd be great to have maybe we can also do you and some of the other friends, yes, working with other organizations.
That would be wonderful.
We could do something like that. That'd be great. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Bulbul, I shall share my email ID with Ashley, sir. Don't worry.
Thank you, ma'am. The link for sharing the feedback of the session is shared in the chat box. I request all the participants to fill the form. E-certificates will be provided to participants from outside the institution. Kindly fill in and submit the feedback from a form before 12 p.m. to receive your e-certificates. So we have come to the end of the session. I request Hridaya Suresh of second year BA Functional English to propose the vote of thanks.
A very good morning to one and all. It's my privilege to propose the vote of thanks and acknowledge the contribution of those who made this program possible. I, Hridaya A, on behalf of Diyapuram Arts and Science College for Women, would like to extend my sincere thanks to Ms. Rashmi Menon for this very informative session on editing industry. Thank you, ma'am. Next, I would like to thank Dr. Ashley NP, volunteer in Diyapuram, for his guidance and support. Thank you, sir. Let me extend my sincere thanks to Ms. Sita Lakshmi, Head of Department of English, Diyapuram, for her continuous and constant encouragement. Thank you, ma'am. I thank all the teachers who are here with us. Thank you all. Let me also thank all the participants for being in the session today. Thank you. We have to come to the end of the session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you.